Well, ladies and gentlemen, we'll talk about tonight, the far right is popular at the moment, at least online and around the place, at least is growing in popularity. Why is it popular? Because, well, it's true. Yes, ladies and gentlemen, this is a report for Tiger Mountain. We're going to talk about tonight, the far right is popular because it's true. Now, there are many political ideologies, ladies and gentlemen. You've got the, ideologies like communism, socialism, capitalism, and you've got, the politics of the far right, ladies and gentlemen. They all sort of compete. Obviously, the philosophy of, liberal democratic capitalism, which I guess is represented by the Labor and Liberal parties in this country, and say, the Democrats and the Republicans in America. I mean, they still are the main parties, or the Tories and Labor over in the UK. They still are the main parties, even though you've got, Nigel Farage's party is growing in popularity, Reform UK. But one of the reasons the far right, in a sense, has a strange advantage is because it's essentially true. Because if you look at the philosophies behind socialism and communism, it doesn't work, ladies and gentlemen. That's not the way people are. People don't like sharing things. There is not this great collectivist. It's not like people. You can't have, for example, some facilities that are run collectively, like like the rail is run, etc. The buses, and you can have some collectivist things, but essentially. It's just not popular, and that's the reason I think that communism was defeated by capitalism, with the fall of the Berlin Wall and all that kind of stuff. But the far right is making a note that, that Western civilization is under attack. It's been constantly saying this, and, really for the last 120 years, that's been the case. Obviously, there's all the wars of the 20th century, which, obviously World War I and World War II were brothers' wars. They were fomented by international bankers. They were fomented so that European peoples would weaken and destroy each other, both wars, so that countries like Germany and, and the United Kingdom and France, were decimated, and most of Eastern Europe and all over Europe, Italy, were devastated by these horrible wars. And that was to weaken European power, which 120 years ago was, unquestionable and indomitable. The power of the European, the idea that you would say in 120 years from now that, it would be teetering on the point of collapse, people would find that very hard to believe. Even 100 years ago, ladies and gentlemen. So, that's what's been going on. And that is the reason the politics of the far right, I think, is resonating with people, at least a certain group of people, who just are beginning to realise what's going on, because European people are under attack. You know what I mean? And this is another reason why, and it's interesting. It even comes into the case of why people who have colour should support Europeans and European civilization, because our civilization benefits all the others. You know what I mean? We are the culture that values democracy, freedom, liberty. We have a sense of decency. We have a great religion in Christianity. Even if you disagree with it, people can understand. Buddhists can understand what's good about Christianity. I mean, I even think some Muslims appreciate Christianity. There's bound to be even a couple of Jews out there who might like Christianity, or at least appreciate it. There's a lot that don't like it, though, of course. It's just Western civilization is of great value, and we have run the world for the last 500 years or so, and at the moment we're at the point of losing our control over the world. Donald Trump is trying to fix things a bit, but, who the hell's going to replace us? China, a country who shits all over their own people, who killed 50 million of their own people, during their various Great Leap Forward, all that Maoist bullshit, the Cultural Revolution. I mean, look how they treat their own people. They treat their own people like shit. How do you think they're going to treat us? Anybody who wants to, ally with China is just got to look at that. Who else could run the world? Israel. Everyone will end up like the people in Gaza if Israel were to run the world. Who else could run the world? Russia. Russia. I quite like Russia under Putin. You know what I mean? But Russia is a country that's fairly brutal, and it's had a pretty traumatic history. And whenever you've had a country that's had a traumatic history and has been brutalised, sometimes the people from that country can be pretty brutal, ladies and gentlemen. So Western civilization is worth saving, and I think it benefits all peoples of the world. It benefits Africans. It benefits people in the Middle East. It benefits people in Asia. Leave us here. Help us out. Support. What we're up to. Support the far right. And that's why you're seeing people popping up all over the world. You're seeing Asian people supporting the far right. You're seeing black people supporting the far right. It's because we are the the ideology of civilization, the ideology of order, the ideology of prosperity, the ideology of the light, ladies and gentlemen. So there it is. So that's why it is gaining in popularity, and it's my prediction it will continue to grow in popularity to a point where hopefully it will begin to dominate the world. Donald Trump is, in a sense, the first, I guess, what you call major mainstream expression of that, even though his expression is somewhat mild, but you can see that he is beginning to, the way he's rescuing refugees from South Africa and things like that. So this is all a good thing. The far right is on the rise, but still got a long way to go. The power of globalist liberal democracy, neoliberalism, which is all a lie, which is all based on rubbish, on exploitation. Capitalism is essentially just exploitation. It's all based on a lie, and it's all going to collapse. And when it does collapse, only one thing can save us, which is the far right.